What's up, guys? Specstar here today, and I've got a double header with my weeks 4 and 5 battles, a UTL. And my first one here, I'm going up against Sean, and he has got a team consisting of Mega Charizard X, Garbodor, Necrozma, Gliscor, Tapu Koko, and Mismagius. And this one is going to be painful for me, but I wanted to get it up for you guys so you guys can kind of enjoy my pain here. And once I get into the battle, you guys are gonna kind of figure it out. This one's kind of tough for me, so I'm gonna skip out on the team part and explaining everything here. And soon enough, you're gonna see some of these mons start to drop for me. He's gonna lead off with Garbodor. I'm gonna lead off with Tyranitar. I didn't want the thing to go right for a Drain Punch, so I'm actually going to switch out here in a Piloswine. Piloswine, of course, would have been able to take it a lot better than Tar. He just goes for a Gunk Shot, not really sure why. I'm going to go ahead and get my rocks up as Charizard comes in. He goes for Dragon Dance. I'm just going to go for Icicle Crash, get the thing weakened. And I'm actually just going to go for another Icicle Crash. I didn't know if he had Roost. If not, I was glad to just put it in range of Shard or anything really. So I'm going to go into Slowbro here as he continues to dance up. I'm just going to fire off my Toxic on this thing. And his Declaw is doing too much. I'm going to have to work on stalling this thing out. I'm going to go into Piloswine, which I know can take a Declaw pretty comfortably. And here I'm actually going to switch back into Slowbro, which is going to be able to take one. And I'm just slowly stalling this thing out. And here I actually go into Tangrowth because I was pretty certain he wouldn't click a fire move, and it was a little bit risky, but I knew I would be able to regen my health back, and I'm getting behind. I knew I'd be able to regen my health back, and I was pretty confident he would not click a fire move. So I'm gonna go back into my Slowbro to take the final Dragon Claw. He'll die to poison, and no, the final one there, he doesn't die to poison, my bad, but he will die to rocks as he goes down to Gliscor here. And I'm going to bring in my Tangrowth, and I'm very comfortable just clicking HP Ice on this thing. If he wants to roost up, I can click my grass move here, which is Leaf Storm. Leaf Storm having extra damage, which is just nice in this matchup over Giga Drain. He goes into Garbodor. I'm going to go into Slowbro, which I thought he would go for something like that. And now I'm going to go into my Piloswine and just sack it off. I was eventually going to sack off Piloswine. I thought I could get some health on Slowbro first. And then as Piloswine actually survives, I get an opportunity to do it again. And I'm out of range of pretty much anything, so I'm able to just slack off. Piloswine is going to die to rocks, but I am able to save it for a later sack. He's going to fire off Gunk Shots, and I'm slack off. I'm actually Lumberry Recycle, which is a pretty interesting set, so I'm not too scared of him getting off poison damage. He brings in Koko here. I'm going to go into my Tangrowth, and he's actually going to go for Calm Mind here, and this is when things turn sour for me. I'm going to go for a Leaf Storm here, and now I'm going to go into T-Tar here. My thought process was that he would just roost up here. He wouldn't want to get low and down to the point where I could kind of either pick the thing off with Sneak or just whittle it down with Sand. So my thought process was that he would roost here, and then T-Tar would be able to, from full, be able to take one Gleam. But he actually decides to click Calm Mind again, which I'm not really sure why. And so I get my Sand up here, and I think here, because if T-Tar is specially defensive invested or Assault Vest, which it very well could be, particularly given the matchup, I take a Dazzling Gleam. So I figure here that he's very likely going to be Twinkle Tackle, and I just want to go into my Piloswine here and scout for it. And he will just go for Gleam, so I'm now thinking, okay, if he did have his Twinkle Tackle, he would probably go for it there. So I'm going to bring in my Tangrowth, and now he fires it off. So he did have it, just opted to risk T-Tar being able to survive that for some reason. And now it's not a good position here. I'm going to bring in Zapdos. There's not much I can do. I'm going to bring in Gallade. And this is a weird turn because he clicks Roost on Gallade for no reason. I click Close Combat because if for some reason I was quicker than him, it would have been the safe way to knock him out. He decides to Roost up for no reason and risk Earthquake. So I'll bring in my T-Tar here, and he's not going to click Gleam. He's going to click Thunderbolt, so I serve 5 and take the thing out with Stone Edge. And he brings in Gliscor now. I go into Slowbro. Earthquake me, do some damage here. I'm going to get my health back. And then Miss Magius is going to be able to wrap up the battle. And, yeah, that is one of the all-time worst battles for me to experience. I did under prep for that time, kind of Combine Coco, but I do think with the way I built it, the way I played around it against most players would have been the correct way. But the guy was kind of, I guess I would say, unpredictable, and it went south. It went south real fast, and I should have had Earthquake on my Tangrowth over Rock Slide, and that was a mistake in my prep and something that did bite me in the butt. But yep, these battles happen and they suck, and we've all had them. And you know what, as much as I didn't want to record this, you guys deserve to be able to see it and see what happened. And I didn't want to be one of those guys who just skips over battles because they sucked or they lost or anything like that. So that's that one. And next up here, I'm going to be facing Clasp in week 5. And I'm going to be, I think, man, I forget his record. I'm at this point, I'm 3-1, and I think he's either 3-1, 2-1, 2-2, something in that ballpark. So it should be a pretty good matchup here. He's got himself a team consisting of Manaphy, Weavile, Dragalge, Rotom Heat, Togekiss, and Mega Lopunny. And I'm going to switch over to my team here. My Glade, it's largely HP invested. I've got my attack invested in a way that the damage Stone Edge does versus a physically defensive Togekiss is good. I don't know if it's securing a KO or if it's just the optimal investment to get a very good chance to KO it, but it's something in that ballpark. I wanted to put a lot into HP because I think this thing could be very hard for him to break, and as well as being hard to wall. Knockoff's good for, he had some kind of psychic or ghost that I really wanted to hit that did not come to this matchup. Stone Edge was mostly for Togekiss, of course, and Drain Punch, just that good spammable move that helps me get my health back. And I gotta apologize for my voice. I don't know if I'm getting a little bit sick, but I kind of feel something going on here, and I don't know if it sounds normal or what, but it feels different. It feels weird. Next up here, I've got an Assault Vest T-Tar, special attacking, which kind of lets me more reliably switch in on Rotom Heat because this was a Pokemon on the team to do so. I wanted to be special attacking, that way I wasn't just completely cucked by a Will-O-Wisp or something like that. Thunderbolt's good for hitting Manaphy. Focus Blast hits things like the Ferrothorn and the Lopunny and the Switch-In. Dark Pulse is that good spammable move. Ice Beam, oh boy, that was for something in particular. It hits a few things on his team. Dragalge is an example of it, and this thing is an answer to Dragalge to some extent if it's not Focus Blast. Next up here, I've got Jirachi, it's Choice Scarf, Adamant. I'm all the way max speed because at Adamant 252, it's just barely outspeeding a Rotom form Scarf, particularly in this time Rotom Heat. Fire Punch hits things like the Ferrothorn. Zen Headbutt was largely for Manaphy. I wanted to be able to flinch that thing neutrally, and basically flinch spam is good against it seemed really good, so having both moves to be able to hit different things either neutrally or super effective was pretty solid in this matchup. And U-turn mostly for early game play, just kind of get in, get out. And this is a Pokemon that I was definitely thinking about for the late game as a potential win condition, and I kind of built around that a little bit. Next up here, I've got my Zapdos, physically defensive, Heat Wave, of course, for Ferrothorn, Toxic largely hits everything else except for Jagelgi, which I do have other options for. And I'm physically defensive. That helps with Lopunny very largely. And that's pretty much the logic behind that. Defog, of course, for things like Toxic Spikes. Now, next up here, I've got a Choice Banded Hitmonchan, and I believe I'm speed invested. Yep, I'm speed invested to creep him, trying to creep a max speed Tyranitar, which he may do with things like, if it was more offensive Togekiss, that's probably the speed it would have. And Ice Punch hits things that Fighting doesn't, pretty much everything, to the point where I didn't need other coverage on this. Hits Togekiss, hits Jagelgi, really anything that's really appreciating a Fighting move is not really appreciating an Ice move. So I went over the top with my Fighting moves. Close Combat, the most powerful one. Drain Punch, just kind of, I guess you'd call it a more spammable move. I can get health, make this thing a little bit more durable and annoying for him to deal with. And Mach Punch is a potential win condition in the back. Something I can just kind of spam if I either get rid of Togekiss or it doesn't come for some reason, but it did. And lastly here, I've got Piloswine. Especially defensive, helps me deal with things like Togekiss, Rotom Heat, and Jagelgi, which is why it's that way. Rock's very annoying against his team. My speed investment, I believe it was just creeping Jagelgi, creeping Piloswine, which I thought was a very high possibility if Jagelgi wanted to run coverage for Piloswine, and Toxic just kind of wears down the bulk of his team. Now I'll switch back to here. Did I record that with the wrong angle? I recorded my team with the wrong angle. I'm sorry, guys. Oh, man. Well, this is the Piloswine set, which you couldn't see when I scrolled down. I'm just going to kind of go once over so you guys can look at the set. I'm usually good with remembering to switch the OBS angle, so I'm sorry about that one, guys. But here we are with the battle anyway. And for this, I just wanted to lead off with Jirachi. It really covered anything except for the Rotom, if you wanted to lead off with that, and pretty much forced a lot of the team out, and I thought I'd be able to get some early momentum with U-turn, and that's my thought process there. Here he is actually going to lead off with Rotom, which is the one thing that I didn't want to do it for. If I go right for U-turn, then he knows I'm Scarf, and I'm not going to tell him that I'm Scarf for 10% of damage, so I'm actually just going to hard switch out into my Tyranitar here. And as soon as T-Tar comes in, I'm going to feel regret because he did not bring a single damn rock resist. So if I was a more standard Tyranitar with Stone Edge, he just does not switch anything in on this. And that was not the team composition I was expecting, so a little bit of regret there. I even considered running 3 special attacks in Stone Edge and opted not to, but this is where we are right now. I'm just going to click Dark Pulse, which could kind of cover anything. I, at this point, had no clue what he would try to switch in on this, because for a normal Tyranitar with Stone Edge, nothing is even close to switching. So I'll just fire off a Dark Pulse and kind of see what he wants to bring in on this as an initial. He goes out hard into Lopunny, and that thing's going to take a ton. Nice to have that damage off right away, and then I'll go into my Zapdos, which is my designated answer to this thing. Return's going to do nothing. He'll avoid the static, and I just want to roost up here. He goes on a Rotom. I'm not very speedy, and his only real attack to damage me is his Overheat. I also thought there's a decent possibility he would have Hidden Power Fighting on this thing or something like that, because I know that he's a spec set, and against a Tyranitar I think there's a very decent chance he'd be Hidden Power Fighting. So I'm just going to be a little patient here and click my Roost, and I'm actually going to be faster than him without any speed on my Zapdos, so that's good to know. He's going to Volt out, and I'm weakened here. He could try to pursue me, but he's got to risk getting staticked, and I don't think it would take me out anyway, most likely, depending on his set. So he's going to knock off as I go to Piloswine. I'll get my rocks up. I'll bring my Tyranitar in as he goes out into Manaphy, and I have this going a little too quick. He's going to go into Manaphy, and believe it or not, Tyranitar is my designated answer on this Pokemon. I don't switch in on it too well, but my team puts a lot of pressure on him, so there's going to be a lot of trade-offs in this battle. He goes for Sub. I'm just going to go for my Thunderbolts. I know I can take hits from this thing. He goes for Surf. He's going to do 30%. I'm going to break his Sub with my Thunderbolt here. I didn't think he'd want to switch out because he doesn't have really anything to switch out into, so I'm just going to click Thunderbolt again here. He'll go for Surf, and I'm in range of one more. And here he's just going to take me out. There was not really a reason for me to save this at this point, so I'm really just okay letting it go down. I could have went into Rachi here. I still don't want to tell him that I'm Scarf because he doesn't know that yet, and it's important for late game to keep that a secret. So I'm going to go to my Mega Gallade, and I'm just going to click Knockoff, which was annoying to anything that switched in, as well as also securing the KO on Manaphy. As he actually decides that Rotom is less important than Manaphy at that low of health, which was surprising to me, but I'll gladly take the KO on the Rotom there. He's going to bring in Togekiss, and I actually considered clicking Sword Stance here, predicting him to go for a Defog or something like that here, or even just a Roost, but I want to be cautious with Gallade because it does look pretty nice here, and Zapdos is always a great switch-in. Plus, this thing lets me Roost up on Zapdos, and that's very attractive to me at this point because of how low it is. He's going to go for an Air Slash, does nothing to Zapdos. I'm going to be able to Roost back up here, and he is going to be switching out into his Dragalge, which is a very good switch into this thing. And I'm going to actually go into my Piloswine here, which is my designated Dragalge switch in at this point. And he's going to make a good play and go right for Focus Blast. Now, this damage is going to tell me that to take Piloswine out, he needs to be damn near max special attack. So if he's near max special attack, I thought there was a good chance this was some kind of choice locked breaker. And my thought process here is that I could, if it was, and I went for Sword Stance with my Gallade, then this would be GG pretty much. So I'm actually going to go for that chance because even if it's not, I'm pretty good in the back playing towards my Rachi Hitmonchan conditions. And he'll actually show to be Sludge Wave as I Sword Stance up, so he's not choice locked. My knockoff is going to fail to take him out. There was a chance it could, and there's definitely more of a chance that it did survive. Not based on his set, just based on the possibilities for Dragalge, I'm saying. But I didn't really need to save Gallade, and getting that damage off on Dragalge is pretty nice for Chan in the back. And Gallade wasn't that important if it wasn't able to set up there. So here I'm going to bring in my Hitmonchan, and the reason is that Hitmonchan will make sure that Togekiss is going to come in after it gets a KO, or it could come in hard. And my thought process was that Togekiss was the most benign thing he can bring in to revenge me, because I have a great switch into that in Zapdos, and even Rachi could come in on it. So that's what I want to come out next, which is why I decided to go into Hitmonchan and lock into my Mach Punch. So I'm going to take Dragalge out there, and he will be forced to bring in his Togekiss here, and I'm just going to go back into Zapdos, and I believe here he's just going to Roost, yep, and I'm just going to go for my Toxic here, if I recall correctly. He goes on a Manaphy. I'll go for my Toxic there. And here I'm pretty sure that he's just going to go for an Ice Beam, so I want to go into my Hitmonchan. And he does go for Ice Beam, but he freezes me. I wanted to keep Zapdos healthy, and Hitmonchan doesn't really need its HP as much, so that was my thought process here. I'm going to save Hitmonchan and go back out into Zapdos on the expected Surf. Manaphy will then drop. So here he's going to bring in his Lopunny. I'm not really sure why Lopunny opted to be the switch in here, because my Zapdos does handle that thing very, very well. Over here, I'm just playing towards, in my mind, I'm thinking about how I can win with Jirachi, since Hitmonchan is no longer a win condition unless it thaws for some reason. but he's going to keep attacking me, and I know I've got static, and he's chancing that every time. He's going to ice punch me again. Fortunately, he's not freezing with the ice punch. I guess the ice punch isn't as cold as the ice beam. He keeps going for it, and here I actually opted to go for toxic because I just got tired of waiting for the static to go off, which is what I was waiting for. Here I'm just going to try and get very healthy on this thing. He's going to go for an ice punch, and I'm just going to go for a heat wave here on him. Finally, just take this thing out. He survives on 3%. He goes for a drain punch here, perhaps predicting the roost. I'm at a pretty good health here. I could try to get full and just go until he gets paralyzed. But after what happened to Hitmonchan, I don't really want to risk this thing getting frozen by an ice punch, so I'm just going to kill it with a heat wave. I'm still out of range of an icicle crash, most likely. So he's going to bring in his Weavile here. Now, my thought process was, I'm thinking that he could go for an icicle crash. He'd have to be, I believe he'd have to be banded to take me out, right? Because I'm fully physically defensive Zapdos. If he is banded, then he has to lock in icicle crash. Jirachi comes in and wins the game. And he could also, sorry, I'm butchering my words. And he could also not be that kind of set. And my play there is I just get the heat wave damage off on him. I set him up for Jirachi to win that way. So I leave my Zapdos in here. I'm just going to click heat wave. He's actually going to go for knockoff, predicting Jirachi to come in. And heat wave is going to get this thing nice and damaged. I'm pretty sure that he's locked into that some kind of way. He actually shows to be a Scarf Weavile, which was a pretty interesting bring. And I'm just going to be roosting these off. And he's going to be doing little damage, but I will be able to take him out here. And now it's all down to Togekiss, and I know that I'm comfortably able to beat this thing. So I'm just going to throw off a Toxic on this thing and then slowly wear it down. And I'm going to be winning this battle 3-0. And after how tough the last battle was for me, both in the score and for my mental health, it's nice to be able to rebound back here and win this game 3-0. And we're going to move on to 4-1 plus 14, which is not too bad if I do say so myself. Although we had that little, what do you call it? That little speed bump for us. We are able to bounce back, and we hope we can keep this going against Matt, who we played in the MLBA semis. He's our next opponent, if I'm not mistaken. And that is going to be the end of this battle in this video. So I want to thank you guys for watching, especially with my voice not feeling right, not sure if it's sounding crappy or hoarse or anything like that, and me also making that mistake showing my team builder with the wrong OBS scene. But that's going to be it for this video, so thank you guys for watching. Have yourselves a good night.